Alright, I probably should have known when this guest arrived and he had F on this hand and HAT on this hand. But honestly, he did seem really nice, and he promised me that him and his mates were just catching up after going their separate ways after school. Yes, they'd be having a few drinks, but they'd be mainly out and about in Belfast and would only be using my Airbnb to sleep in. And I certainly had a long time to regret that decision, as I waited outside at 3 AM while the police removed a half-naked man off his face on something, probably everything. And I had even longer to think about it the next day as I brushed up broken glass, cleaned blood off the walls, and mopped that floor again and again and again. So sticky. Now, that's actually a true story, and if you want the full version of it, leave me a comment and maybe I'll do a full video on it. If you're new here, what's the crack? My name's Dave, and in Belfast I host over 75 Airbnb, short-term rentals, serviced accommodation, vacation rent. What do you actually call them? Leave me a comment. And on this channel, I help Airbnb owners get started or scale up, giving you more money, more freedom, and more fun. Now, today we're covering the dark side of Airbnb.
Come to the dark side.
I'm going to be showing you what the gurus and so-called experts don't tell you. I've been at this for almost 20 years. And yes, I know that's before Airbnb was invented. How did we ever survive without the wonderful Airbnb? In this video, I'm going to talk about common misconceptions, financial risks, legal problems and regulation, security concerns, the impact on your personal life, and some of the really annoying things that guests can do. But it's not all doom and gloom. I want to try and help you navigate through these challenges, because ultimately this can be a very profitable and fun business to be in. I just want to give you a deeper understanding of the potential problems that you might come up against so you can make an informed decision when you're either getting started or growing your business. So let's start off with some of the common misconceptions. Now, the biggest one I always see these gurus talking about is that it's passive income. Yes, you can systemize this business so that it runs like clockwork, but it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, front loading that, spending the time to construct those systems so they're gonna give you that time back. The biggest thing that people forget is that these are real people coming to stay in the property, and they have questions and demands. It can be very, very demanding, and it's a 24/7 business, so you've got to be prepared for that. Certainly at the start, it is not passive income. It is not low maintenance. The second common misconception that really bugs me, if you follow this channel, you'll know, is that people only list on Airbnb. Yes, we all call Airbnb the Holy Grail. That's what the whole industry is called, but that's not the only website or OTA that you can list your property on. And if you are, you're really putting yourself at risk. And the third common misconception about this industry is that any property will work. You can just get any old property listed on Airbnb and the bookings are just gonna fly in. Again, anyone who thinks that is likely to get a rude awakening. The location, the facilities, and the finish of a property are what determines how successful it is. If you try to cheat on any of those, guess what? Guests are gonna leave you some really crap reviews. So, if you're ready to go into Airbnb hosting with your eyes open about the amount of work that's involved, if you know you need to get your property on all the different booking sites to guarantee the highest return, and if you've researched the area and you know you're bringing a banging property to the market, then happy days. Right, so next up are some of the potential financial risks that you've got to be aware of if you're going into this business. I kicked off this video talking about the party that happened in my property. Like, this is real, these people exist. I've got a whole section about it in my book. You've got to be streetwise and protect your property against all these bad guests that are out there. And you can't do that. It's important to have a really strict vetting procedure. Ask guests why they're there, have strong house rules, take security deposits. There's lots of ways to stop these bookings at source, so you don't get caught out like I did. Now, I should say, once you get caught once, you will never be caught again. The next thing I want to talk about regarding finances of this business is none of the income is guaranteed. This is a market-driven business, and supply and demand factors play into it. There's no guarantee that you're going to get bookings. You might have a property in an extremely seasonal area where it's either going to be super busy during the summer and completely empty in the winter, or it just might only be popular at weekends. So it's really important that you go into this with your eyes open. Now, there are ways where you can determine how successful an area is going to be. You can use a website like Airbnb, which I have a link below for, but it's so important that you do your research. You also need to be wary of competition and market saturation. If your property is in a super desirable place, but there's already hundreds or even thousands of Airbnbs, you're going to have to really compete against them. So it's super important that when you're bringing a property to market, you don't just bring a vanilla bland, the same as everything else to it. It's important that you try and stand out, push the boundaries, offer something completely different that you're going to stand out in the search results and get that booking. And then there are unexpected costs that you're going to have to be prepared for. You're going to have higher insurance to pay. You're going to have much more maintenance that you need to take care of, because these properties are used very often, and the throughput of guests, no one treats an Airbnb like they do their own house. Things get damaged, things get broken. Now, this might not be malicious damage, but stuff just gets wrecked, and you have to be prepared to be able to fix it. And we're not talking about, oh, the washing machine isn't working, I'll get someone to look at that next week. No, everything is an emergency repair. The guest might only be staying with you for 2 days, and if they mention that on day 1, it's gotta be fixed by the time they leave on day 2. Well, guess what? More bad reviews. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about is the legal side and the regulations. Full disclosure, this changes in every city, state, country. I can't give you information on where exactly you are, although let me know, where are you watching this video from? But every city or every council or every state is likely to have their own laws on this, and if they don't, there's probably some coming. So it's super important that you protect yourself in case the worst happens. Now, if you're doing Airbnb arbitrage or rent to SA and you're paying a guaranteed rent to the owner for that property, you got to make sure that you've got either some sort of parachute out of the contract, or that property will at least cover itself if you have to rent it out. And the other thing is tax implications. Again, this is going to vary depending on where in the world you're watching this video, but certainly one thing to consider in the UK is rental income from long-term tenants is not vatable. But once you start doing furnished holiday letting income and you reach that 83, 85 grand, then you're getting hit with 20% VAT. Thank you very much. Now, I'm not a tax specialist. Please speak to your accountant on this, but they're going to tell you what I've just said. Again, it's important that you go in with your eyes open. If you get 1 property, you can do it no problem. If you got 2, you're going to be getting near to that VAT threshold. So you might want to think about limited companies versus your own name. Speak to your accountant. Security concerns. Now, believe it or not, Airbnb started as a system where people could rent out spare rooms in their own house that they live in. Personally, I couldn't think of anything worse, either doing that in my house or going to stay in someone else's house while they're there, but it is what it is. Maybe you're planning on doing that. You gotta be careful. You gotta really check who you're letting into your house, and you gotta really check whose house that you're letting yourself into, just to make sure you're gonna be safe. Now, I already touched on guest vetting, and if you want to download my personal vetting procedure, you can click the link. Actually, it's not up here, it's down here. But it's super, super important. After a while, you're gonna get a spidey sense about these things. You're gonna start noticing red flags, things that just aren't quite right. Yes, it can be a pain, and it can be uncomfortable to ask guests these sort of personal questions. Why are you here? Who are you bringing with you? What are you planning on doing when you're here? But every question you ask gives the guest a chance to completely allay your fears. Oh, we're a group of 7, 80-year-olds and we're coming for a golf day or the bowls or to visit something, and you just feel better. If you start asking the guest, what are you here for? We're here for my mate's stag. Oh, what age are you? Oh, we're all 19. Oh, have you any do you know where the nearest strip club is? You know you're in trouble here. And the last thing about security is making sure you have the right insurance in case any of your cleaners or any of your guests injure themselves at your property. I'm talking falling out a window, falling downstairs, breaking a glass and cutting themselves on it. Guests can be really stupid. So next up, let's talk about the impact on your personal life as being an Airbnb host. Now, I already talked about it at the start, where this is a 24/7 hospitality business. These guests don't care if you have a date night with your wife or your husband. These guests don't care that it's your kid's birthday party. They want to know where the potato peeler is or where the nearest vegan restaurant is, and they need to know now. It can be stressful, both mentally and emotionally. It always seems to happen at the weekends where you're sitting down, you're relaxing, you've got a glass of wine in your hand, and the next thing your phone rings. And it's ultimate terror. You don't know what's going on. You don't know whether your property's on fire, whether the guest has been robbed, or if they just want to know if you can drop down some extra toilet roll. It's tough, and it's not just tough on you, it's tough on your family as well. I remember whenever I was on my honeymoon, I was dealing with guests on the phone, I was buzzing people in, I was sending emails to people. It's a lot to take on. Yes, the money is good, but you got to be prepared for the work. Add to that, and there's just significant time required when you're just starting out to manage the listings, make sure your rates are right, deal with all these emails, liaise with the cleaners, make sure that they're all going to the right place at the right time, making sure guests are out, and just maintaining the properties. Now, without sounding like a guru, this is a business that can be systemized. You can have the freedom, you can be on a beach getting buzzes about bookings coming in and 5-star reviews, but it takes a lot of work and time. Click this video and you'll be able to see how to do it. And now onto my personal rant of annoying things that guests do. Honestly, this could be a video in itself, and actually I might do one, and if any of you are already Airbnb hosts, please contribute in the comments the annoying things that guests have done on your property. One of the most annoying things they do is they can break things and then say it wasn't them. That's super frustrating because obviously our cleaners are going in, it's their job to tell us if anything's broken, so we know if something is or isn't, and if something is, we can tell the guests, look, really sorry, this broke before you've arrived. We know about that, but we're going to get that fixed now. But the frustrating thing is when the guests arrive and then they tell us something is broken, which is clearly not. Like the cleaners changed the bed, so they know the bed is fine, and then the guests check in, and after their kids have been jumping on the bed, it breaks, and they then tell us the bed was broken already before we arrived. It's their word against ours. It's so frustrating. there's nothing really you can do. Like, you can go to town on the guest, or you can just suck it up and say, yes sir, no sir, apologies for that sir, we'll get that bed fixed. Next thing they do, and if you're a host, you're guaranteed to already know this, stealing toilet rolls. Like, once you get started in Airbnb, one of the biggest things you have in your head is toilet rolls. Now that's going to surprise new hosts or people who haven't got started yet. Toilet rolls become a bit of an obsession when you're an Airbnb host. I nearly said a toilet host. You never know how many to leave. You never know whether to leave the rest of them locked up, because if you leave them out, the guests will use them all and they'll take them with them. Other guests, you can leave 2 or 3 toilet rolls for a week's stay, and after day 2 they're saying,
more toilet rolls, more toilet rolls.
Toilet rolls cost about 20p. It's not the cost, it's the frustration of it. You know, as hosts we leave things for guests to get started with, but this is self-catering accommodation. Get your own toilet rolls. What else can guests do? Sneak in pets into a no pets property, and it's so clear that this is happening. You can see the hair all over the place. You can see the outline of the dog bowl where there's water everywhere. You know, I'm not particularly against pets, but if you have a policy of accepting pets, you know, whenever we all think about, yeah, I'll accept pets, you think of accepting a small little dog, but what if a Great Dane shows up? You know, you can't discriminate, you can't be doggist. So for me, it's just easier to say no pets, but it's so frustrating when they sneak them in anyway. Another thing which particularly savvy guests do, or they think they're being savvy, is now as hosts it's appropriate to have different rates based on the size of the group that's coming. So if you have a property that sleeps 6, the rate for 6 is probably a lot higher than a rate for 2 people. But what guests have figured out is if they can book for 2 and then just bring 6 people, no one will know. Of course we're going to know. All the beds are slept in, 1 million toilet rolls have been used, you got to pay up for 6 people. Now this is a brand new one for me, and one I actually heard from one of the people I mentor in my Airbnb community. This new host had a guest come and charge their electric car off her electricity. Now over the space of 2 days, it cost like 40 quid. And that's 40 quid coming out of her profit, of her increased bill. Like, that's not on. But I don't know how you can stop that, because there's no thing on Airbnb or any of the other booking sites where you can say no charging your electric vehicles. So what now? She has to update all of her house rules and send it to every single guest who probably doesn't even have an electric car to say no charging your electric car at my property. Another thing that guests do is ask for discounts. It's like, get what you pay for here. You know, I'm offering an amazing property. You can see all the 5-star reviews that we've already got. You can see the amazing location that it's in, all the cool things that we have in the property. There's a reason why it's that price. If I thought it was fine to just give you the discount, I would have had it at that price anyway. Next up, and one of the things that is the biggest bugbear for hosts, again, if you're a host, leave me in the comments how much you hate this, is when a guest leaves a review and says everything was absolutely perfect and then gives you 4 stars. How on earth does that happen? Or also along those lines, they don't tell you about any problems during their stay. You've sent them messages, you've sent them emails. How is everything? Is there anything I can do? Radio silence. And then as soon as they check out, an absolute diatribe of why your property was so rubbish. Like, it's so frustrating. We're hosts in hospitality business. We're here to make your life easier. Just tell us if there's a problem and we want to fix it. There's another set of guests who, at the same time as always asking to check in early, also want to check out late. Now, how does that work? Your cleaners are going to clean the place in about 30 seconds. Just selfish. Selfish guest. No matter how many times you're trying to reach out to guests, contact them, phone them, email them, tell them about the check-in procedure, but you need to actually speak to them before you're going to give out key safe codes. The amount of times guests just ignore everything, and then you get a phone call, I'm standing at the door, how do I get in? And this is of course a time when you're either putting your kids to bed, or you're driving, or you're making dinner, or you're doing something. You can't be answering that phone. Then all of a sudden the guest gets all antsy.
Oh, why aren't I getting in on time?
Just answer the emails. Then we get other ones that ask us to decorate the property. They say it's their friend's birthday and can we completely decorate the property? Whatever. Or other ones that just use us hosts as their personal concierge. Like, anything they need, instead of asking Google, they just ask the host. Those are frustrating. But I went on a bit of a rant there. But as I say, this is a hospitality business. I'm letting off steam here, but whenever a guest asks for these things, it's big smiles, and yes, of course, that's no problem. We need the 5-star reviews. Remember, revenue follows reviews. So I don't want to put you off by starting an Airbnb business, and I hope if you've already got started, you recognize some of these things. There are ways through it. But it just annoys me when I see these gurus talking about passive income and how this is such an easy business to run and any old property will work. It's just not like that. So the only thing left to do is either click this or click this. Go ahead. No, I'll wait. Which one? This one first and then this one. All right, bye.